Hello, I'm Zen Master Sebastian Rizzon. Today I'm going to be being interviewed by Nadia, one of the Zen Art Center community members, and she's just going to be asking me whatever is on her mind around the topic of Zen. So yeah, if you have any questions for future Q&As, drop them in the comments and we'll try to include them in future interviews.
All right.
So with that said, do you have any questions?
So there is a story that I read in a children's book about two monks, traveling monks. The older monk and then the younger monk. And the older monk is like there's a lady, and then he's carrying her for a little bit, and then she doesn't say thank you, and she's ungrateful basically. And then a few hours later, the younger monk. I think I'm butchering the story, but I'm making a point. The younger monk. So a few hours later, the younger monk tells the older monk, "Oh, that lady didn't even say thank you." And the older monk says, "Well, I dropped her off hours ago, and you're still carrying her in your mind." So I butchered the story, but you get the point. The point is, very often you can carry with you thoughts and emotions and memories and a lot of the stuff for a long, long time. And I guess the more you carry things with you for a longer time, the harder it is to clear your mind, even with meditation. So I guess the question is, how can you build that kind of non-attachment to things and people and stuff that happen throughout the day, so that meditation, or whenever we have time to meditate, that meditation is actually taking care of the real stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting you told that story, and there's the initial burden of the monk carrying the woman, right? And then the younger monk kept carrying the woman in his mind, and he kept carrying this burden, and it was like an unnecessary burden. He could just put it down at any time. He was choosing to carry it to some degree. I realize that's probably a little bit out of his control, but the idea is, why carry things you don't need to carry?
Yes.
You only have a certain capacity for what you can carry. You need to learn how to put things down.
Exactly.
And then you can pick up new things and have fresh experiences and new experiences. So you just have to get good at putting things down.
How do you get good at putting things down?
It's the same way you get good at lifting them up. You practice. If you want to lift heavier things, you practice lifting heavy things. If you want to get good at putting things down, you practice putting them down. What do I mean by that? You practice meditation. You practice focusing on what you're doing. And those are ways that will force you, if you're completely focused on each moment, by definition, you're not thinking about other things. So practicing that level of focus is how you get good at putting those things down.
So now how would you or what can you say about just the way one breathes throughout the day, and how that is, I guess, also helpful in not carrying things with you, or managing your emotions, or calming your nervous system, etc. throughout the day? So just the focus on the breathing, and maybe even conscious breathing, and knowing when your breathing is out of what's normal.
Yeah, I honestly I don't personally use a lot of breath work. I think there's ways you can I think these kind of things can be circular. So if your mind is clear, your breath will become normal. If you learn to control your breath, though, you can learn to clear your mind too, and to settle your body down so that it's not interjecting itself into your mind. So I do use a breathing technique in my meditation class before I start. That's something you can do at any point throughout the day. You can also just, as a form of meditation, just count your breaths. That's just another form of a mantra. So like I was saying, your mantra can be anything. So when I teach these things, I teach in the most. This stuff is very difficult to do. First of all, it's easy to say, but because of that, I try to keep it very simple. So I explain things in terms of a mantra. That's all you need. A mantra can be a word, it can be your actions, or it could be your breath. And if you breathe slower and deeper, it can calm your body down. So if you're counting your breaths and you try to slow that count down, that will help calm your body. But I learned to control my breath through my martial arts practice, but it was never really the focus of my training. It's just something I learned how to control my body through that practice. And I think you can learn through any mantra practice to do these same things. So you can have different techniques, but to me, they're different approaches to the same thing.
So then I guess I want to talk a little bit about martial arts because, again, the image I have in my head of monks and Shaolin monks and is like heavy kung fu or any type of martial arts in Japan and in all of these countries where the martial art goes hand in hand with spiritual practices. And same for Taoism through, Qigong and Tai Chi. And there's always like a body-mind connection or like working in those like tradition, working through the body to get to the mind. So how do you see martial arts in general? How do you see it working or helping one in their spiritual journey?
Well, I can't remember, but I believe Kung Fu literally translates to something that has nothing to do with martial arts. It's like mastering a skill, essentially. Tai Chi and Qigong, Qi is life energy, universal energy. Yeah. So all of these practices, especially when they're rooted in a spiritual practice, are ways of learning to control the universal energy that's running through your body. And the form of martial arts I learned was it was the same. It was a way of manipulating the universal energy in your body. My teacher was a Zen master and a martial arts master, and his martial arts was a form of moving meditation. That's what he taught it as. But I think any martial art can be that if you use it in that way, consciously learning to control your energy. If you're just using it to beat people up, I think you're going to destroy any of the good karma that you're creating through the practice. And so part of the Buddhist spiritual journey is trying to alleviate suffering in the world. So if you're beating people up, you're adding suffering to the world. And so that's not generally something any Buddhist will condone. So in that way, I just wanted to differentiate. There's stuff we call martial arts, which is like in America, which is like sport fighting. That's not really the same thing as what I'm referring to.
I see.
It's more about using an art form. In this case, martial arts is the art of war. It's these techniques you use in war. I learned how to use a sword. I learned how to use my hands in combat. But I learned them not to dominate someone else, but to master myself. And through mastering myself, I learned to control myself, to control my body, using my mind to control my body. It's no different than using your breath to control your body. It's just different ways you're activating your mind to control your body. And when you can do that, that's the proper order of things. Your mind should control your body, not your body controls your mind. And establishing that order, I think, is an important step to being able to control your mind. And that's why one of the things I suggest to anyone who is a serious student of mine is that they find an art to master. That is a part of the process. And in Zen, to be a Zen master, you have to prove that you're a master of the techniques of Zen.
Mm.
And so that's just a different art form that you're learning to master.
So martial arts is mastery of the body or the mind mastering the body, but also, or along the same line, a way of being or working out, or I guess working on being in a meditative state while doing the martial arts, because that's what it requires to be a good martial artist, especially as you move along and progress in there. But also martial arts as a way, which you did not talk about after, but as a way to work with universal energies. So I guess, can you expand a little bit more on that part specifically of martial arts, of how martial arts help with that?
Well, you're learning to control the energy of your body. I don't have like any mystical definition of universal energy. It's the energy in the universe. It's the same stuff physics studies. When you eat food, you put the food in your body, that gives you energy. That's a form of universal energy you're putting through into your body. Then what do you do with that energy? How do you use it? Do you use it to fight with somebody, or do you use it to help somebody? Those are two different ways you can use the same energy. The energy is neutral, but you can learn how to direct it in a way that it helps you accomplish your goals. And just to complete that thought about martial arts and mastery, if you are using this energy to become a master, it can build a lot of confidence in yourself. And one of the side effects is that it creates a stronger self-image. And that is another form of karma that you have to learn how to put down in the process of becoming a master. So as you become a lot of people become masters. We have lots of masters, across the world. If you have a master in a science or an art, you're a master. You're not a Zen master, and you're not enlightened. And the reason a lot of masters don't continue to progress is because they develop a certain amount of ego that stops them from wanting to progress, because they become very comfortable with their level of knowledge, and they learn how to control their body and the immediate surroundings around them, but they stop seeking the deeper truths, which transcend the ego, which transcend conceptual thinking, which transcends intellectual thinking.
So, and I want to talk about the ego, but before going there, so, or maybe we should just talk about it right now, I guess. So when you say ego first, what do you mean by ego?
When I say ego, I literally just mean your sense of self, like your self and self-identity. Not
so
like
me as an aware, conscious being thinking about myself as an individual.
The most simplistic definition I can give, and the most all-encompassing, is ego is self. It's the idea that you and the line you draw around your body is separate from other things. So on a scientific level, I mean, we've created lines that say this is where I stop and something else begins. But those lines don't really exist. They are, like your skin is composed of cells. Cells are made of atoms. Atoms are made of particles. And particles don't really exist. They're part of waves. So there is no real line there. It's all, there's nothing solid there. If you take your heart out of your body, you pass away. Your body dies. But if you take away the planet from your body also dies. So they're interconnected in a way where we've just kind of we've made a conceptual boundary there. And my whole point is that you have to see what's actually there when you drop all of those conceptual boundaries. Now, those exist for a reason. It's something we've evolved to recognize so that we can survive as living beings. But so there is a purpose to that. However, it also is masking the real truth, which is that those boundaries are a lot more fuzzy than we make them out to be. And they really, when you strip away everything and you keep looking deeper and deeper and deeper, there's nothing there. That's the emptiness. And when it's easy for you to sit and understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
But what I'm suggesting is if you practice Zen enough, you experience that. And it changes the way you experience everything once you've experienced that.
So I think there's a saying that says like dropping knowledge to gain wisdom. And that's like the process from intellect to wisdom being as like a different type of knowing, which is not truly intellect.
Yeah, and I'll use just an analogy. It's intellectual understanding is like having a map. It's like having a map of I'll just say it's like having a map of Germany. Okay, I've seen a map of Germany. Does that mean I've been to Germany? Does that mean I've experienced it? No, because I haven't. Well, I technically have, but only a small part of it. But the point is having the map and going there and experiencing it is a totally different thing.
So it's hard, right? So it's hard to drop knowledge because it gives you relief to know, to like say, you know what, 1 + 1 = 2. That at least I'm sure of. And
yeah.
it gives you
so
like,
I mean, I can have a map of Germany and I can look on Google and find all of these things out about Germany, and I can know a lot about Germany. But it's totally different than going there and experiencing it. And every individual's experience of it is going to be a unique experience.
So the ego wants safety and security, and for that purpose creates and keep boundaries so it can survive, right? And then that leap of faith requires a little madness, or at least being like, you know what, I don't know what's out there, I don't know what I'm looking for, but I'm still gonna do that kind of leap of faith. And how do you like, it really needs some kind of madness, or it needs so much suffering that the actual life, that you take the unknown to what you know already, because what you know is like so not safe anyway.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of that is just social programming we've had to fear certain things, stuff we've learned to value certain things about ourselves from the day from the day you're born. People are telling you that you're Nadia and you're separate from the rest of the world. So you've been conditioned to believe that since the day you were born. I don't think it necessarily requires madness, but I think I can understand that there's fear. The suffering, I would say that the suffering is unavoidable. As long as you cling to these ideas, you will suffer. You'll continue to suffer. And if that suffering becomes madness because you're afraid to let go, then that's what you will get. But that's another form of extreme attachment. And that's what I'm suggesting that you let go of. And so on the other side this is what the Buddha and the Dharma were teaching, is that on the other side there is no suffering. Once you are completely detached from those ideas and you've let them go, suffering in itself is an idea.
Hmm. Suffering is suffering itself is an idea, but suffering is not just an idea. It's something you experience. It's more than just something out there in your brain, isn't it?
I mean, I would say it's a created concept. I mean, I think like pain is real, but continuing suffering from that
I see.
is a different form of attachment. When you recognize this deeper truth attached to the mind, that is associated with the mind, you'll understand it's not necessary to suffer in the way that you are.
So pain and suffering, different. Pain exists, physical, body related.
Yep.
Suffering, mental, and it's like carrying that load with you. And the more you carry the load, the more you suffer.
Yeah, and I think they're obviously related in some way. Suffering can feel like pain. Pain, though, I wouldn't necessarily say it's correlated with physical experiences, but it's also mental. You can learn to block out pain. You can use different pharmaceutical drugs so you don't feel pain during surgery, for instance. So there's things that you can do that prevent that form of suffering.
All right. Well, thank you very much for answering my questions. I have a bunch of other questions maybe for another episode. But yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for coming up with such thought-provoking questions. And hopefully it's helpful to some of the people watching here. All right. Well, thank you again for joining us. Like I said, if you have any other questions you want us to discuss in future episodes, drop them in the comments and we'll try to get them into our next discussion. I also will try to do some live streams in the future where you can drop your questions in the chat. So stay tuned for all of that. And thank you for joining us. Good luck to you on all of your journeys.